When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, their profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
Hi everybody, my name is Sean Ridgeway, aka the Useless Talent Guy, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest is a multi-award winning entertainer who has brought his unique blend of comedy and magic to thousands, yes, thousands of audiences across the country. He's also been on multiple shows on TV, whether it be America's Got Talent, Penn and Teller's Force, and many, many more. He also has been traveling the country doing his one-man shows, and we'll get into all of that. Yes, he has the handle of Useless Talent Guy, but this next guest is magician Sean Ridgeway.
Yeah, baby.
So, Mr. Sean Ridgeway, how are we doing? Or should I call you Useless Talent Guy?
No, surprise me.
Well, that depends which direction, how deep we're going. No, never mind. So, obviously, you've been seen on a few different outlets. Yeah, America's Got Talent, Penn and Teller's Force, a couple other shows as well. What do you see with your fan base is probably the biggest response when they reference other shows like that? Hey, I saw you here, or I saw you there. Yeah, where do most people usually bring up?
It's a mix. A few people say YouTube, but mostly it's from Fool Us because
Okay,
that did pretty well, it seems. So
right on. And I know I'm coming in hot and heavy there, but figured why not? And I'm looking at your background, and I appreciate the Mickey that you have on the
oh,
Rubik's Cube.
yeah, we got a couple of little wizard Mickeys there because I like Disney, I like magic, so perfect little merger.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just recently out at Disneyland
Okay.
and met Wizard Mickey, we'll say,
Mhm.
as you put. So, a nice little tie back for me about a month or so ago. So, at, from reading I did on this interweb thing, which it's been a great discovery. I didn't know so much information was out there.
Yeah, and it's all
But
factual, which is the wild thing.
yeah, I know, right? 100% everything is accurate.
Am I on the internet?
But from what I was reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about the age of 9 or 10 that you got into doing magic.
Yes, sir.
So where did the interest start?
Yeah, so that's actually an interesting story because a lot of magicians have a very similar origin story. It's usually, oh, my mom, my dad, my grandpa got me a magic kit when I was little. Some people say they saw David Copperfield on TV, but in all honesty, and this isn't a script, this isn't a bit, the honest to God true story is I got started in magic because I was an idiot.
Color me intrigued.
I'll take that. But so I was about 9 years old at the time, and I had an uncle who was really into like bar bets and pranks and stuff like that. He was always horsing around, and he would always do stuff that at the time I thought was a magic trick, and then I didn't figure out until I was much older that I was just stupid. So the thing that he did that really got me the most, you know, the game where you toss the coin up and you try to guess heads or tails?
Yeah.
He would do that, but he would win every single time. And so as a 9 year old, I was like, oh, well, he's doing some type of sleight of hand or some magic something so that he could win every time. Come to find out, he was just saying, heads, I win, tails, you lose.
Say it with me. Meeska, Mooska, Mickey Mouse.
I'm
So
actually going to have to steal that one.
now it worked on me, and here we are 20 something years later. So because of that, because of my blatant unawareness, I'm going to date myself here. I had to go to a library because this is way pre-internet. And this was actually the very first magic book that I ever got from the library. And so, like I said, 20 something years later, here we are. Now this is the full-time gig and living the dream.
So, as we jump ahead a little bit from what I understand, you spent your college years honing your craft, your comedic timing and such at theaters and comedy clubs. And most of the folks I know who have talent with a mixture of both comedy and magic presentation, that seems to be the, what do you call it, mixture of success. Being able to have, comedic timing and magic. I think of like Penn and Teller have a lot of comedy haha with their stuff. Murray Salchuk does. There's a lot of folks you could go down the list of who that works for them. So do you remember, obviously, your first few shows during those college years, but when did it also you go, okay, I finally have something here as far as mixing everything together?
Yeah, so that's also an interesting question because I've gone through just like anybody, like, you go through phases. And when I first got started actually performing like at theaters, the first show I ever did was I was living in a dorm at the time, and my RA said, "Hey, would you want to do this?" And that was the first stage show that I ever did because before I would do little stuff just walking around. I'd never done stage before. And he gave me that opportunity just with the people in my little dorm. And that was the first one I ever did. But at the time, I was doing a lot of like the weird stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of comedy involved. But I was really big. I'm a music theater kid. And I was also really big into improv when I was in high school. I was part of an improv team. But in the college years, again, it was a weird phase, eyeliner, nail polish, the whole kit and caboodle. And so I was doing a lot of really like stupid and dangerous stuff as opposed to, enjoying my life. And as I kind of, grew up, I got out of that. And then I started getting into stand up, and like I did some comedy clubs, no magic, just because I'm one of the few people who have the belief of, if you want to call yourself a comedy magician, you should be able to go to a comedy club with no props and kill just as much if you went to your local magic club and did a few tricks. You should be able to hold your own in both. And if you can't do either of those things, because I forget where the quote comes from, but it's comedy magicians are just either really bad comedians who know a couple of magic tricks or magicians who know a couple of jokes. So I tried to learn both, and I've made lots of friends along the way who were comedians and who were magicians, and you learn a lot. And really, it wasn't until probably 7 or 8 years ago that I really got to a spot and found a character that fit me, that I really liked. And I create all my own material. Like I write all my own stuff. Like I don't do anything that you could buy from a magic store. Because I'm a creator. Like I'm an idea guy, even more so than I am a performer, I think. So a lot of comedy magicians, again, I'm not throwing shade. I'm not saying one's better, but a lot of comedy magicians, they're a dime a dozen. If you see one, you've seen them all.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're killing my gimmick, by the way, because I was going to bring up that I was reading and heard you say in other outlets about being an idea guy. Mm-hmm. So do you think most of this stuff that you come up with being the idea guy, and would you say it's mostly for your stuff, or is it for other people that you say, you know what, this is good when you come up with something, but it might fit so-and-so, or this might, depending on what, because not everybody does the same show, but you know what I mean? How much do you keep for yourself compared to, you might say, this might work for somebody else?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Haven't been asked that one before. So that's
I try once in a while.
Good for you, guy. But yeah, so that's a multi-layered answer as well. It depends. Like if somebody has booked me to do like consulting, like if they have a specific thing that they want to do, like let's say a magician wants to do this thing, but they don't know how to do it. Like they have the idea in their head, but they don't know the method to how to make it work. Sometimes they'll reach out to me and we'll work out some stuff, and I'll try to figure out a way for them to do that. And, that's for them. That's their style. And obviously I'm not going to take, because it ultimately becomes theirs. Like if you're working with a team of people with somebody else, then you obviously want to try to figure out what works best for their style as opposed to your style. Because I've helped a lot of my friends and also clients that we have very, very different styles. And I think it's almost easier to create for other people because your character, once you figure that out, it fits in a box, and you kind of, you have those parameters that you have to stay with them, as opposed to somebody else. You're getting a fresh perspective. You're getting a new gimmick that you can view it from a different angle. Like for me personally, my favorite thing to do when I'm trying to come up with new ideas is to ask muggles, complete randos who know nothing about magic. And I say, what would be, if you went to a show and you saw whatever, what would be the craziest thing that you would walk away. Don't matter, doesn't worry if it's possible or not. Just what would be the wildest thing that somebody could do that would really shake you? And then if they give their answer, I try to come up with how to do that.
Now, I was going to ask, with you developing for other people when they come to you and say, hey, this is what I'm working with, and this is give you what they got. Would you say most of them, or the idea at least, is well constructed? Or is it just, well, this is the idea, but I only have, say, parts A and B, where you might not have C, D, and E, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So it really depends, because some people will reach out and just be like, hey, I have this idea. I want to do something with a fork. Okay, well, what do you want to do with it? I don't know. I just want to use a fork. And then other people may come in and be like, okay, I have this idea with a fork. It does this, it does this. And when you do it like this, but I just don't know how to make it make sense in the context of my routine. So they vary in stages of development. There's lots of R&D involved. But also at the same time, sometimes you'll start out with one idea, but just from brainstorming and just from bouncing ideas off of people, it may turn into something completely different. And what you end with is a totally different product than what you originally sought out to create. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes creating so fun, is you truly never know where you're going to end up. And just in the interest of full transparency, most of the time it's going to be garbage, because for every good nugget of an idea that you have, there's probably 100 straight doo-doo ideas that just don't work.
Well, speaking of doo-doo ideas, the way you put that,
He called the shit.
is obviously, like you said, it took you a bit to find your niche. Okay, this is what works for me. This is what I want to do, character-wise, show-wise, all that. Are you a guy that can, if something don't go right, let it go? Or do you kick yourself going, that show was the shits, but that, you know what I'm saying? You get that, because everybody I know in some sort of the arts world, whether it be podcasting, magic, movie, acting, whatever, you have those moments afterwards and you go, that was the fucking shits. That was that, I mean, you just really rip into yourself. Do you have a lot of that?
It really depends on the nature of the beast. Like, if I'm up there and there was a prop misfire, like something doesn't work the way it was supposed to, but it's also a double-edged sword because I build everything myself as well. So if something doesn't work, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Like if you were to go to a magic shop and buy this product and then you did it and it broke or it didn't work or whatever the case may be, and you say, well, the trick would have been fine had that prop worked, you can at least have some outlet to blame something. For me, it's all my fault. Whether things go good or bad, it all falls on me. And I think having an improv background really does help with that, because
I think,
because I've always said that's one of the marks of a, professional and somebody who knows what they're doing is, how do you get out of a bad situation? Because you're going to have bad shows. You're going to be put in weird situations and you have to just figure out a way out of it. Like I've had shows where people did, like, you plan for scenarios A, B, and C, and somebody just goes so off the wall to something that you can't even feel bad about it because there was no way that you could have planned for it. But they still hit you with it nonetheless, and you still have to roll with those punches and figure out, how do I adapt and overcome? And there are times that there aren't really any ways of gracefully getting out of it. But sometimes if the audience is on your side, they understand and they will extend grace to you.
Yeah.
And that also can make for a very humbling, like humanizing moment that kind of breaks the wall between performer and audience. Cause it's like, oh, he's just some goober that's on stage. He's just one of us.
Yeah.
So
You know what's funny? We talk about where there might be a misfire of something, prop or whatever the case is. And I wish I wrote the gentleman's name down because he was another guy who was on Fool Us. And they were doing the on stage interview as, Penn and Teller talking about the whatever the trick was. And he was telling a story, or it might have been the pre interview, either one, where he was like, I guess the best way I can describe it from what I remember was almost like a carrot top or something, where he had like a trunk on stage, whatever, as part of his shtick. And something happened with the trunk, and luckily he had an improv thing, deal. So, rolls with it the whole bit. Then somebody in the audience, it might have been like a corporate deal or something he was hired for. And they go, hey, there he was talking to a few people afterwards. This person approached him and goes, hey, we loved what you did, love what you did, but can we bring you on for a gig? Yeah, sure, here's my number, da, 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 da. And the person turns to walk away and goes, oh, by the way, you got to do that thing with the trunk. That's what sold me. So it was like something that wasn't even supposed to happen got him a gig and a couple other gigs after that. So I was like, all right, how the hell am I? Then it goes back to the drawing board. Okay, how am I going to replicate that? Because I didn't mean for that to happen.
yes, and that's actually a very versatile thing that it really did. I've found over the years that your audiences give you the best lines. You can write jokes till the cows come home or whatever, but it's never going to be as funny as it is when somebody else says it. And a lot of times, whatever joke that you had, they say something that's way better. And at that point, let them have their moment, and then you just kind of make a mental note of it. And guess what? I'm using that next show.
Yeah, exactly. You go, okay. I like that. When material just presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, I mentioned Fool Us a few times, and you did a trick with I wrote it down as the King of Clubs trick.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is there a proper title for what that trick was? Because like I said, I just put it down as King of Clubs.
Yeah. So that's just a routine I've done for way too long. I just call it the match routine.
Okay.
Really clever, I know, but
No, but that's part of the deal. So no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, what was that process like? Because obviously, like, how much advance notice did they? Hey, we'd like you to come on. We want you to, you fit what we're looking for. But how much did they also want to know, like from the producer side of things? And because obviously you don't want to show your hand per se, since we're talking card tricks, but like how much prep time was there for that experience, would you say?
so so that's also another multi-layered answer. Because I mean, TV stuff is very different, as you know, than real stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you'll never see.
Yeah.
So funny enough, that routine, the match routine, I didn't even submit to them that year. I had submitted that routine the year prior, and I never heard back from them. And then just out of nowhere, they emailed me and wanted to set up a Zoom call. And I had a couple other things planned. I had a thing with a dollar bill that I was going to do. And they're like, we want to talk to you about that match trick. And I said, okay. And so I showed it to them.
Was that on your bingo card even when they said we want to have a conversation with you?
Not really. Like, it's one of those wishful thinkings, but the season had already started airing.
Okay.
The one that I auditioned for. So I just didn't think anything of it.
So they ask you they say, hey, we want to talk about this.
Yeah, a submission from the last year, which I thought was funny. But of course, when you get that opportunity, what are you going to say? No? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So we sat down, like we Zoomed a couple of times. They worked out some stuff, and we went over method, and I showed them the stuff, how everything worked. And one of the main producers, he's a consultant there. He kind of took it back to the workshop, and he made, like, I wrote him a script, and he made some tweaks to it, and he sent it back, and he's like, okay, as long as you agree to do exactly what's written in the script, congratulations, you're on the show. I said, okay, because some of the scripting was a little different, and there were a few elements of the routine that were different on TV than they are, like, if you were to have seen me do this live in the past.
Okay.
But they kept fairly faithful to it enough that I think it turned out well. So I can't complain. It's a fantastic opportunity. So
Yeah. More exposure, all that fun stuff.
oh, for sure.
I'd be curious to know if that consultant, because I don't want to give everything away or give it all away. But I remember hearing Penn on an interview they were doing with Google or one of those. And it was one of those rare opportunities you hear teller talk, because obviously when they're performing, teller don't talk and all. And Penn was telling the story because they asked him about Fool Us and such. And he goes, we have a consultant on the, like in the production truck doing the tapings of the show and all. And Penn was laughing. He goes, for example, you come on, do the match trick a whole bit, and they go back to the seats or see if you're fooled or not. Well, obviously they're still mic'd to the truck. And he laughed. He goes, there's several times that our consultant thought we figured it out, but we didn't. But 9 times out of 10, the consultant is aware of, because he could hear how it goes back and forth between them. Because obviously 50 years of experience, you've seen a trick or two.
Sure.
Maybe that's just. But he goes, it's just funny. The consultant goes, yeah, I think they got it. Or, what, these guys might be stumped. So, anyway, is match trick a common trick for you say, or is that something you developed for yourself?
Yep. That's something I developed many years ago, and I really started doing it because it was my closer during the dark days when we had to do virtual shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I adapted that, and that was my closer for almost 2 years in virtual shows, was the match routine. So yeah, that one, like all the props, like I created that little clear box. It was just a little $7 box at Hobby Lobby, and just the cards were just cards I had laying around, and the matches, I build a lot of stuff out of match boxes, so I have a bunch of scrap matches laying around.
So then I'm going to move on, obviously, because I want to bring up your stage show and such. Mm-hmm. But do they ask you after, whether it's the site, yeah, you fooled us, or no, you didn't, whatever, when a decision's made, after the show's being done taped, do they ask you and say, I liked what you did there. How'd you do it? Is there like a way of that magicians will, oh yeah, this is what I did. But you know what I mean? Did you guys talk about like concept and theory with them?
Yes. So after the thing wrapped, after my little segment was done being filmed and they had, given their verdict, Teller actually came backstage with me, and we were talking, and I was showing him some of the stuff, just to see how close or how far they were. And Teller really liked some of the props and the thinking. So we did talk about that a good bit, and they're super sweet. They're awesome. So
was there any advice that they had given you saying, hey, obviously they liked what you did. I can say that. But were they gracious enough to say, hey, Sean, give you just advice because of having so much experience?
Not particularly. We kind of talked about the actual routine, and they wanted me to come back sometime, so we'll see when that happens.
All right. Well, that's good to know. But I want to know because I was actually talking. I know I mentioned him a little while ago. Murray Saltruck.
Mhm.
Uh, was talking with him in this format a couple weeks ago, but I saw him in person and just everything. And we were talking about kind of what I was saying earlier about the code of ethics amongst what you do. Do you think, and you two are obviously in different generations, but yes, Mert, I know I'll get a text for that. What are you doing? Call me old. But what would you say your biggest pet peeve is with said code of ethics and what you guys do as a trade?
Oh, that's a honestly, it's not so much my problem with the ethics because I understand like if somebody puts something on the magic market and somebody pays their money to support that creator, that product, what have you, they should not immediately turn around and post some exposure video online because that is taking money directly out of that creator's pocket. So I understand the beef there with a lot of people. And I agree with it to the point. Like if you come up with your own stuff, like I teach tutorials on my YouTube channel,
Okay.
but they're all my creations, so I can do whatever the heck I want with them. Uh so if it's your thing, then I have no problem with you doing if you want to sell it, if you want to teach it for free, if you want to do whatever with it. I don't care because that is your
Intellectual property kind of, let's
yes,
say.
exactly. But if it is a marketed item, I don't think you should be exposing that. But I do get, and this is going to sound very egotistical, but I don't mean it in this way. But my challenge to all magicians is because a lot of magicians whine about like, oh, I bought this thing and then it was exposed on TikTok the next day. Like a lot of people whine about that. And so my response is twofold. First off, non-magicians are going to watch that and it's going to go in one ear, out the other, goldfish brain. Even if they've seen that exposed video, they are never going to remember it. So you're fighting ghosts there. They're not going to remember like, oh, I saw that on TikTok. He did this and that. No, they won't. Because right after that video, they just spent the next hour watching cat videos. So that part of their brain got fried. My second thing is if you're worried about that, get better. I can confidently say I can walk into a room and I can show any magician or any layperson any of my stuff. And if a magician figures it out, that's fine, because again, it's not a competition. But a layperson say, oh, well, I'm just going to Google that. I'm just going to TikTok that. Go right ahead. Because the only place that secret exists is right here. So if magicians want their stuff not to be exposed, make it your own. And that's my challenge to all magicians. Be original. I think Steve Martin had a quote one time and said, magic is the only art form that you can buy. And I fully agree. Magic is such a pay to win type of deal because if you have more money than God, you can put together a crazy, amazing magic show. But at the end of the day, all the fancy props in the world aren't going to save you if you're a garbage performer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that circling back, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is magicians griping and whining and then not doing anything about it, even though there is a clear-cut solution right there.
Yeah. It's just funny because I was thinking about that because we were talking about his particular train trick. And I'm sure you know that story, right?
Oh, yeah.
With David Copperfield complaining and whatnot because he did it on AGT. But, the way Murray explained it to me without getting into, and I'm not exposing anything here, folks. He goes, I did it with I'm trying not to do that, But so Murray says, it's a similar trick, but it's not the exact same one. I did it with the head of the train. I don't know what you did. David did it with a car. You know what I mean? There was differences between what they both guys did, right? So obviously Murray's a scene. He goes, there had to be adjustments made because you can't have a 4-ton train on a stage. Whatever. So David's was shot outside. Yada yada yada. So anyway, trick goes off. No problem. Oh, he was shocked that it actually worked because of how quickly they had to turn around and do everything. So fast forward, and he goes, I only did it one time. It was for the show. Well, give or take, some time goes by, whatever. Folks were doing his trick, I think overseas, like Europe or something like that. And you know how it is, word gets around quickly. And he goes, hey, I saw you did. He wasn't mad or not. It was just like, but he was able to reach out when he found out who it was. Hey, I know you did my gimmick. Oh, we didn't do it. No, no. They were like, no, what are you talking about? Come on. I just did it in front of 12 million people or whatever it was on that episode. And you're a magician and you didn't see that. Like, don't treat me like I'm stupid, like he said his piece and moved on, like, so it is what it is. But all right. So 2 more things I want to bring up. I appreciate the time. First
No,
and
no
foremost.
rush.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. The time. I appreciate it. So, Roy, you mentioned about social media earlier, and you did a deal with, well, I guess this is a two-parter, with trying to have a new trick up on YouTube for 365 days. So, did you accomplish that goal of having a new? Because that's got to be such a mind twist that I got to have something developed and all that fun stuff.
So that, I guess I was going through a dark stage and hated myself or what. I don't know why I decided to do that, but yes, I did finish it. That was back in 2023, from January 1st, 23 until January 1st of 24. There are 366, I think, videos on my YouTube channel. They're all on a playlist just called the 365 Days of Magic Challenge. I'm the only person to have ever done it, because there have been other 365 Magic challenges. However, they have been, here's a thing I bought, I did the trick, throw it in the drawer. Okay, next day, next thing. I'm the only person who has ever done it with all original material and creation.
That's what I was going to get at. Yes.
Yeah. So that was a pain in the butt. And also with scheduling, because towards the end, like, I had gotten super burned out. I think it was day 211. At that point, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to hang it up. Like, screw this challenge. I don't even care. Because it was a couple weeks after that I was going to be on a ship for 2 months anyway. So I wouldn't have been able, and I wouldn't have had Wi-Fi. So I couldn't have uploaded all the stuff like I needed to. And so I took that time off. I was burned out. I was just kind of pissy about the whole situation. And then I came back and I was like, you know what? Let's finish this. I've already wasted this much time into it. I might as well, we're near the finish line. So I ended up filming 140 something videos in the span of like 2 days, I think, and then editing them and then putting them on YouTube. Because it was also hard because I added the extra challenge of making them all shorts. So they were all under 60 seconds, which was also very hard to do because I do a lot of more drawn out routines. Mm-hmm. And so I had to get all of that stuff into a 60-second window. And it's a bit misleading. So I did not create, per se, a new magic trick every day. These are tricks. Some of them were created that day. Some of them were created by accident while camera was rolling. Some of them, and they're not all good. I'll be the first to admit that. What we talked about, for every good nugget of an idea, there's 100 ones. That's a testament to it, because if some poor soul actually wants to sit down and watch all of those, there are some really good ones in there. There are some actual bangers.
Yeah, like you said, there's going to be a mix. You're going to have your winners and non-winners.
Exactly. and because they're not all great, and I'll be the first to admit that. But there were no camera tricks. There was no editing outside of potentially like speeding up a video to make 60 seconds. But there was no editing. There was no anything. And so a lot of tricks that I did on the 365 were tricks that I have done for years, and they've been part of my repertoire forever. And then other ones, like I said, I either came up with that day or I just had a backlog of crap that I didn't really know what to do with. And so here it is.
Yeah. Because with folks like that, and like you said, not everything's going to be a winner, but the people who bitch about stuff, or give people shit about whatever, and that's a hell of a task he took for all the reasons you mentioned, 60 seconds and 365, and
Thank you.
down the list. And it's like, or I get people bitching what I do, or what I mean, like, okay, so easy, you do it.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. I'm sure with you running a podcast, you get it. Like all those comments.
At almost 13 years, yeah. People go, oh, that's just you click record and go. No.
No.
That's not how this works.
And the only people who say that stuff are the ones who have anonymous profiles and have never actually contributed anything. You don't see any professionals in my industry or your industry that make those kind of comments.
No, because they know what it takes to.
Yeah, because those are typically more of the supportive ones or the ones who just don't say anything because they're wise enough to just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not every intrusive thought you have has to be posted on the internet. That's the biggest.
I've fought with that a few times, yeah.
Yeah, every idiot's got a platform.
Because there's a couple of times I had some bitch sessions on my own, complain about this or that, and I go. Then the phone will ring by other people who do this, and it's funny, it happens. They'll pick up the phone and call or text me, go, "Hey asshole, you done? Did you let Nick?" Oh, and especially the guys and gals who have like comic backgrounds. They go, "Do you need a Kleenex? Are you done?" They just give me the business. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. Bring me back to earth. But the other thing I wanted to bring up was, like I said, catch me if you can, one man show. So if people were to come and see you, what can they expect with what you do?
So you're going to see stuff that you haven't seen before. And if you're a magician, you're going to, well, hopefully you won't see the methods, but you will bear witness to methods that haven't been used before, because again, I build everything myself. There is only one thing in the entire show that somebody else helped me with. So I have 3 different 45-minute shows, and Catch Me If You Can is my main one, and that's the one that I've been doing the longest and is probably a couple years out from retirement, just because it's time to bring in the new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to change your shows periodically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to see the show, if you ever catch me live somewhere, like, lots of weird concepts. And there's a lot of because I'm a big pickpocket. So there's a lot of, goofy, funny things in there.
Does this go back to those days early on that you said of the college days where you were in a different headspace, let's say?
Yeah. So no, I don't do any of that stuff anymore.
Okay, but I'm just trying to connect the two if it was there. So
no,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Funny enough, there's very minimal connection, because now instead of having, and I also figured out that because at the time this was still super, super early. And so the idea of a guy wearing eyeliner and nail polish, it was still kind of taboo, because like Chris Angel had just come on the scene. So that was the first time people had really experienced like, ooh, the dark, edgy magician, if you want to call it that. Which I don't think any magicians are edgy. We're just a bunch of losers who do card tricks. But Again, hence the I'm self-aware, useless talent guy. Like magicians take themselves way too seriously.
But that's what I love. Well, that's what I loved about you when I first saw you. I go, he gets it. Like, okay. I mean, there's no bones about this is who I am. This is what I do. And take it or leave it.
Yeah, and there's no like you're either gonna have fun or you're not. Like
Yeah.
that's and I'm not saying all magic has to be goofy and silly. Like you can present things in a way that's very moving, very powerful. How just intrinsically, if you strip it down and look at what we're actually doing, it's kind of goofy. And I
Yeah.
don't think anybody could really argue that point. But I just lost my train of yes.
You were talking about the
Yeah, so
retirement
Angela
the
had just
show.
come on the scene and and I went to a little bitty college at the time. Now it's big, but at the time it was a very small school. And like I was odd man out because like, oh my God, he used eyeliner and nail polish. What a weirdo. And so that was kind of the gimmick because everybody knew they saw me. I was going to do something stupid. I was going to do something with fire or razor blades or just something goofy. Now I've figured out, like, as I've kind of found myself more, that I don't need a gimmick. Like my dad always said the whole, like, if you're as good as you think you are, you shouldn't need a gimmick. Your talent should
I love
speak for
that.
itself. And I'm
I
like,
love that.
at the time it pissed me off because I'm like, no, this is not a phase. But now I'm here and the whole gimmick is just purple. I wear purple glasses, and if you see me live, I'm gonna have some type of purple on, whether that be purple Converse or like purple pants or something like that, or like a checkered purple shirt like I wore on Foolus. Like, and that's it. That's the whole gimmick is just the color purple, and that's it. It's not
Sounds like
distracting.
Dad's a smart guy, though.
He has his moments. I'll never tell him that, but
I won't say nothing. What do you got planned for the rest of the year? I know we got a long time to go, but we're early February. What do we got planned? But also, do you have any particular goals you want to try to accomplish before 2025 runs out?
yeah. So I'm very fortunate. Anybody who complains in our line of work, like take them out back in Old Yeller Room because we are so blessed. We are so fortunate to be able to do what we do.
I got it bad if it'll help.
There it is. He's ready for it.
I got.
But like I'm in a very good position now where I have opportunities, and I'm very, very grateful. There's a couple of potential TV spots that I'm working on. Nothing confirmed yet. I have a few ships that are lined up throughout the course of the year. I'm doing a few lectures at some big magic conventions. I'm doing a couple of normal conventions, just as a performer, not magic conventions, just actual like the Comic-Con type stuff. So it pays to look like a dweeb. But
It's funny. Let me ask this before I put a bow on things, because you just hit me when you said you're going to the magic convention per se, where you speak with other professionals. Would you say that's more nerve-wracking than performing for an audience, or is it that performing in front of an audience that get your juices flowing per se?
like I love performing especially for lay people because I mean they're our bread and butter. Like we don't do magic shows for magicians, or if we do, like you're even weirder. Like why would you do that? Because I've always said that like when you come up with something you shouldn't, and that's like anyone who's familiar with the magic market, God bless you. A lot of people just crank out just brain fart ideas just to try to fool other magicians. But if you did that in the real world, anyone watching would be bored to tears. Magicians, yeah, like I don't know how, like a lot of this math stuff, like I don't know how it works. But also ask me if I care. Did I have fun watching it? No, because it was boring as sin. So, yeah, you fooled me. Congratulations. but I wouldn't be caught dead even attempting it. So what's the point?
Yeah.
But so I love performing for real audiences, and I love meeting people afterwards. And that's my favorite thing about cruise ships, is because you get to meet so many cool people in so many lines of work from all over the world. But at magic conventions, the majority of people who go aren't actually professional magicians. A lot of people are just hobbyists, which is great because they're like sponges. They're always loving new ideas and new stuff to bring to the table, and they're great. They're great audiences typically. The only thing I worry about with a lot of magic conventions is I have to be very, like, stuff I lecture on, I don't care because it's stuff that I want to give to the magic community, and I'm fine with people doing it. Like, I have a couple of magic products out on the magic market that people can buy. And stuff like that, like, I don't mind people doing it, but when it comes to performing, I have to be very careful with what I do, because just like you had said with the Murray situation, magicians are vultures. And if they see something one time, ethics go out the window. If they see something and they like it, and it doesn't even have to be a trick like it was in his particular instance. It could be a concept. It can be a theme. It could be a presentation, because people don't care that you spent so long coming up and perfecting that thing and grinding it for years to get it to the place where it is now. They don't care about that. They just see the finished product and be like, I want that. And so then they do it. Yeah. So when I perform at magic conventions, I have to be careful with what I put out there, because I have to make sure I'm okay with people lifting it. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's happened a lot already.
Well, and I can say this publicly anyway, as far as, because it's part of the conversations we've had both on and off air with Murray. He would tell me, hey, there'd be times, the other side of the fact. Yeah, I told that story a few minutes ago, but there would be things that other people would approach him on, kind of a little bit like what you do with a consultant, and develop, hey, I like this. I like you do ABC, the ABC trick, whatever.
Sure.
I'd like to do ABC trick in my shows and stuff like that. But I want to, instead of ABC, maybe ADC, you know what I mean? Change it up a little bit. But it goes back to the ethics thing. They say, but they reach out, whether it's social media, or they know somebody that knows him, or they knew him. They go about it differently and say, hey, you know what I mean? I guess you could say you do it the right way.
Yeah.
And he said, I respect that. Hey, God bless you, do it. They talk. Some have offered him some money to buy the trick, like you said, off him, whatever, But he appreciates that they at least came to him, you know what I mean? If it was something he developed. So.
Exactly. And I have no problem with that.
But that's a whole different thing if you're what I would call a professional.
If it is something that is currently in my act, like, if somebody saw Catch Me If You Can and they did a routine almost verbatim from there, I'd be pretty pissed.
Yeah.
But likewise, I would also be pissed if they reached out and I told them no, and then they did it anyway.
Yeah, no, I get that.
However, once that show is retired, do what you want with it.
Yeah.
If you want to, again, at the risk of sounding arrogant, like, if you want to enjoy my scraps, go ahead, because I've already moved on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I'm doing something completely different here, but
like, these are ideas that I've run into the ground, and I'm done with them. They have served me very well. If you want to take them, go for it, because if somebody steals an idea from me, I hate it, but that's fine, because I can go back to the drawing board and come up with something potentially better.
But you mentioned a word earlier. It's almost like vultures you might see picking at the bones of, whatever it may be. So where can people find you if they choose to find you? Obviously, I'm going to put your YouTube channel out, your website, things like that. But is there any particular avenue that you normally point people to?
Probably because I'm the absolute worst at posting. Like, I am garbage at social media. I don't care for social media myself, but again, it's free advertising, and when you are more in the public eye, it's kind of like an obligation.
Yeah.
But also, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and I've made friends that way too. So,
Yep.
if anybody wants to reach out, like, the best way to get a hold of me is probably on my Instagram, which is at Useless Talent Guy. And if you send me a DM, I'll probably respond. I don't post very often. I know I should, and I'm going to answer your question about goals for 2025. I would like to be a little more diligent and post more regularly on social media. And on YouTube, I want to get back to doing the weekly because I was doing weekly uploads. And then I took some time off. But I'm actually, right as soon as we finish up, I'm going to film a couple of videos.
Awesome.
So my YouTube is exactly the same as my Instagram, Useless Talent Guy. But your best bet, if you want to actually like chat with me or hang out or whatever, it's probably going to be through Instagram DMs.
Right on. Sean, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Hey, this is Murray the Magician from Las Vegas, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio. Do not miss a beat. Don't turn that dial. Listen to everything. You're not going to want to miss this.